carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. And before I get approval of the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to the CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to take a moment and introduce our interim fire chief to members of council. Mr. Dave Sampson has joined us today and started with the city on Thursday as the interim fire chief for the city of Maple Ridge. With an impressive 32 years of experience with the city of Burnaby, Dave has worked his way from firefighter to various leadership positions such as lieutenant, training officer, captain, and for the past 7 years, he served as the deputy chief for the city of Burnaby. Dave's experiences in one of the busiest fire departments in the province, serving a population of nearly 270,000 residents and leading a team of 335 fire department employees, will undoubtedly benefit the city of Maple Ridge. Known for his effective communication and engagement style, Dave has actively contributed to the Fire Chiefs Association of BC for several years. He is also a passionate advocate for improving the mental health of those working within the fire profession. Dave lives in and has raised his family in Maple Ridge for many years and will officially join the city, or has officially joined the city on Thursday. He's busy meeting all of our IFF members, our city leadership team, and our POC members. I had the privilege of joining him last night during practice to introduce Dave to the fire department as well. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce Dave Sampson to members of council and welcome him to the corporation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the mayor, who is not here today, and council, we welcome you as well. Thank you for taking the interest to come and serve in the community that you live in. Really appreciate it.
Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So with that, motion to approve the agenda, please. It's moved and seconded, moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any additions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And minutes, adoption of the minutes of October the 17th. I have a motion to move the minutes, moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Councillor Dozy's in favor too? Yes, so carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk, I'll turn it over to you for 5.1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item on the development applications is application 2023-217-RZ and contains 3 bylaw amendments required to effect the changes directed by council to waive public hearings when an application meets certain criteria. These bylaws modify criteria for waiving public hearing, increase notification radius, and amend the council procedure bylaws to strengthen public feedback process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and council. All right. So the 3 bylaws before you this morning, we have seen these relatively recently. So this work stems from the original amendment through Bill 26 that the province brought in a couple of years ago. More recently, we've had some discussion about what the process for waiving public hearing could look like at the city of Maple Ridge. So the 3 bylaws before you reflect the comments heard at the council workshop on October 24th, as well as some of the earlier comments heard at the committee of the whole. So before we get into the details of what these amendments look like, I just wanted to take a moment to pause and outline what our current process is today. So today, when the development application comes to the city, we will receive that application. We review the application for completeness and to make sure that we have the necessary information. Once satisfied with the application, we are able to have a sign installed on the properties, and then it will move through the approval process, including opportunities with our advisory design panel, as well as with the communities through our development information meeting system. When staff have determined that the application is able to move before council, it comes to the committee of the whole venue for council clarification. And then should council be satisfied with the application, it would move for consideration of first and second reading at the next regular council meeting. At the moment, we do have public hearing. So through the public hearing process, a number of ads are run in the local newspaper, as well as letters are issued to residents within 15 meters of the site. Following the public hearing, the development application will then move through the third reading process. Once terms and conditions are complete, the development application is able to go to final reading. So one of the elements that we heard through our conversations with council in October was certainly about aligning the expectations between the development information meeting and the public hearing notification process from that 50 to 100 meters. Next slide, please. So the process that's proposed before you this morning has a couple of different elements incorporated. So the first one on the left-hand side is that addition of that web page. So this would be a very simple site on the city's webpage that would be very accessible for people to read and figure out what the development applications that are taking place in their neighborhood would be. So this is proposed within the process before you this morning. As well as increasing the development information meeting process, and the notification of application would now move prior to committee of the whole. So it's very similar to what a public hearing would see today. There would be newspaper ads that would be provided by the city, as well as the letter that would be mailed out to residents within 100 meters of the subject site. This would allow 10 days for residents to be made aware of the development application that will be going to council. And then at both committee of the whole, as well as the council meeting, the appropriate opportunity for public comment or public input would be moved to the beginning of the agenda. So for a community forum, for community of the whole, that would be at the top of the agenda. And then for first and second reading, it would be a question period. So those are the three main moves that are captured under the bylaws before you this morning. And just to give an idea of how this compares to what is currently required by the province, the table before you outlines what the provincial requirements are and how this proposed approach would elevate the opportunity for community consultation and input with our residents. So namely that you can see that we are required to provide a newspaper ad for 2 consecutive weeks, and we must provide a mail notice prior to first reading. The website, the sign, and the development information meeting are all above and beyond our legislative requirements. And then readjusting the community forum and public question period would also provide additional opportunity for our residents. So what this looks like, the criteria remains largely very similar to what came before you on October. So essentially when a rezoning application aligns with the land use designation within the town center area plan, we would be able to waive the public hearing from the beginning. And very similar, we have criteria set out for area plans outside of the town center, specifically broken down by unit type for townhouses, apartments, single detached developments, as well as those infill housing types, namely our duplex, triplex, and fourplex. So we have made a modification where the higher density units within the courtyard have been removed from the public hearing bylaw at this point in time. And then in addition to these housing or residential focused criteria, we do have some for our employment and industrial uses. So very similar, if a commercial use aligns with the OCP, or if an industrial use comes forward that aligns with the OCP, we would also be able to waive the public hearing process for those development applications from the beginning. And then how that compares to the most recent announcement, I do acknowledge that we are waiting for some additional information from the province over the coming weeks. So as those information becomes available, we would of course be able to offer any amendments or changes to the bylaw as needed. But from what we've heard so far, the proposed change to phase out the one-off public hearings for housing related projects may be included in the legislative changes coming into effect in early 2024. The bylaw before you does include and go beyond that 50% or 100% housing requirement in addition to including additional uses. So that is captured by the table on the screen before you. And just briefly, in terms of timelines and next steps, should council move these bylaws forward to the next regular council meeting for consideration, they would be able to be considered for first, second, and third reading. Should all of the bylaws be adopted, the new process would come into effect for new applications. Anything in stream, acknowledging the fact that we are currently transitioning between the separated first and second and the combined first and second process will be addressed on a case-by-case basis, as we do have waiving opportunities currently under our public hearing process. And then there will also be those new changes coming in 2024. So we're certainly able to work with the applicants through that process. We'll just need to be taking a more case-by-case approach for these items. And the report outlines the recommendations that would be able to be moved to the next regular council meeting should council move that forward today. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Could I have a motion to move it forward to next Tuesday's council meeting? Moved by Councillor Tan and seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any questions? Councillor Youssef first and then Councillor Carreras.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to staff for the report and presentation. Just real quick for the public, having received some inquiries as to why it is that we opted to remove the courtyard housing from the public hearing waiver. Could we elaborate on that for the general public, please?
Through the chair, earlier in October, there was some comment that not all land uses or all housing typologies that council felt comfortable with waiving the public hearing as a default. So one component that I did miss in the presentation is that should this process be adopted, any application that does not necessarily align with the criteria from the outset, such as the larger courtyard developments, would be able to have an alternative recommendation outlined in the report. So should council feel comfortable with these development applications, they would still be able to waive the public hearing later on in the process. It would just not be as a default position.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. And thank you for this. I did watch the videos from when I was gone, so I saw the debate on all the stuff that happened. My question still stems, and I know you had a slide on this, and it's only one portion of it, but is the most significant piece of what we do is around the housing. And I'm still curious why we wouldn't put this on hold until we know the result of the legislation that got passed last week. I wonder if we're doing all this work just to have to redo it again in January.
Through the chair, that is certainly a possibility. If council would like us to hold until we have additional information, we are able to bring it back at that point.
And I don't know what the process is at committee of the whole to be able to do that. I mean, I don't anticipate this being long till it reaches royal assent, but is there a process at committee of the whole, or do we need to take it to council to basically just table this until we have the final results of Bill 44? Because there are pieces of, I know it's comments, questions only, but there are parts of Bill 44 that overwrite Bill 26.
Yeah. So we do have the ability to do that. The challenge from my perspective is then the rest of council can't provide their comments on that. So
I'll wait for comments, but
Yeah.
so I can at some point when we're finished the discussion could.
yes.
Okay,
can.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Tam.
Thanks, Chair. I had the same question, curiosity as well. Thank you, Councillor Carreras, for asking that. The second question I had was just around like the changes between workshop and the current report at now at committee. During council workshop, I understand that the courtyard housing had remained as exempt from public hearing, and so just to make sure I understand, there is a change from what was presented in workshop to now.
Through the chair, the sole change to the waiving public hearing bylaw was the amendment to the criteria so that the infill housing is now capped at 4 or 5 units. I believe it's less than 5, so essentially 4 units as opposed to the 9.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Dozy, do you have any questions in chat? I don't see any. You're good. Okay. Counselor Schiller, you're good as well. So I guess I hear the comment about tabling it, but when I look at the, when you did the comparison, I didn't see anything that would really change. So could we go back to that?
So this slide shows a comparison based on the bylaw before you this morning and our understanding of the upcoming legislative changes.
Right. So the knots, okay, I see. I was thinking of the one previous to this where the check marks,
Oh.
we had more than the provincial. Okay.
So this is the proposed bylaw approach relative to the public hearing legislation in effect today.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I will turn it back to Councillor Carreras and look to the clerk for the proper language.
I believe the intent of Councillor Carreras is to postpone this item until additional information is received from the province.
Yeah, I mean, the bill itself was just tabled last week. It still has to go through committee stage and reach royal assent based on the timelines that they have in their legislation. I'm assuming the intent is to have royal assent before they rise for Christmas, but I mean, who knows what happens in the House, but it's not a long delay, but I'd rather just, like, instead of having to deal this now and then next Tuesday have to debate this again, I mean, to do the decisions, then in January have to come back, another staff report, another debate at council with changes. I just don't see why we just hold it for another couple of months.
Can I just ask one follow-up question before we do that? How long would the province give us to revise our public hearing bylaw regardless of whether it's this one or the existing? Typically, it's a year, so that's why I'm asking.
Through the chair, I believe the documentation provided to date says we have approximately midway through 2024 to align our bylaws with the new legislation.
It's June of 2024.
All right,
I can propose a motion to postpone consideration of the bylaws until more information is received from the province regarding
Yeah.
housing.
Thank you.
okay, so you're moving that?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tan. Any discussion on the tabling of this bylaw? Nope. Okay, all in favor? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Tan.
Thanks, Chair. And I'm supportive of the motion because I agree as well that the debate on and just the details around the housing portion, when those details have yet to be released by the province, I think that discussion is sort of premature. And I know that all of us will want to try and do a good job on our jobs, and then we'll prepare for it and we'll discuss it, and to have all that discussion done before the province comes back in perhaps maybe a month or two seems premature. So I think that it is, I am supportive of the motion. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I didn't catch Councillor Dozy, did
He
he?
was in favor.
Okay, great. So it's carried unanimously. Thank you. So Madam Clerk, 5.2.
Thank you. The next item is application 2022-457-RZ at 12035 222 Street to allow for temporary use permit to allow temporary accessory off-street parking at the subject property. And staff are in attendance. Thank you.
I think you've got the public hearing one up still. Yeah. There we go.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. This application here at 12035 222 Street is for a temporary use permit. The site is designated Town Center Commercial and the current zoning is RS1 Single Detached Residential. The existing site area is about 704 square meters, and the purpose is to allow a temporary accessory off-street parking use on the property. This is the subject property located just north of Dooney Trunk Road, north of a medical dental building at the corner of Dooney Trunk Road and 222 Street. This is the subject property, showing it being in the town center commercial designation, along with the building to the south, or the site to the south, which is proposing to utilize this parcel for parking. This is a subject property ortho photo showing the actual building to the south and parking lot there, and then the proposed parking lot to be site for the parking lot to be located on. It's noted this application is to consider a temporary use permit for the following: to allow for 14 additional off-street parking spaces for the existing commercial building on this property. Both properties are under the same ownership. There are no proposed changes to the commercial building to the south, and there's a landscape screen proposed in the plans included within the draft permit along the western and northern property lines to reduce impacts on adjacent properties. And as noted previously, TUPs are valid for up to 3 years if issued by council, and can be renewed once by a council resolution if another application is sent forward to council in 3 years. This is the parking lot here, 222 streets to the south. So the north is actually to the right, and the commercial medical dental building is to the left. That's the south. And this is the parking coming off with the landscape buffer along the north and west property lines. So the recommendations are before you, basically that the temporary use permit respecting this property to allow the off-street parking spaces for the commercial building on the adjacent lot at 22195 Dewey Trunk Road for a maximum of 3 years be forwarded to a public hearing and then subsequent council meeting for decision. And that following the public hearing, the corporate officer is authorized to sign and seal the temporary use permit once the following conditions are met. And that's removal of organic material on the site, placement of a road base and 3/4 inch clear crush for a gravel parking lot, and registration of a cross-access agreement between this site, subject to the temporary use permit at 12035 222 Street and 22195 Dewey Trunk Road, where the building is located, and installation of the landscape as shown on the plan, and receipt of a security for $3,784. Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I have a motion to move it forward, please. Moved by Counselor Youssef, second by Counselor Carreras. Any questions? Counselor Tan.
Thank you,
and the official community plan at this time. The proposed OCP designation is transit corridor multifamily based on the Low-Key Transit Corridor Area Plan, or LTCAP plan, that has proceeded partly through the adoption process. I should just note that in June of 2019, direction was given to staff to proceed to process rezoning applications that were consistent with the current OCP and also the proposed LTCAP plan designations. And so this application is coming forward based on that direction of the time. And we have, just to note, there's been several applications that have come forward in the corridor that have been adopted on that direction in the past, in the last 2 years. This application, the site is zoned RS1, single detached residential. The proposed zoning is RM2, medium density apartment residential. The site is approximately 0.95 acres and is noted it's to permit the construction of a 6-story apartment building with approximately 119 units and 2 levels of underground parking. This is a subject site, 203rd Avenue and York Street, just south of Dooney Trunk Road. And this is the subject site under the existing OCP designation of urban residential. The urban residential designation allows for up to 6-story buildings on major corridors such as Dooney Trunk Road, but not on this site, the current OCP. But as noted, the LTCAP plan does envision this area all as transit corridor multifamily that would allow this application to proceed. It's just comparing the existing and the proposed plans here. This is the site here on the orthophoto showing 220th Street and York Street and Dooney Trunk Road and the existing built environment. Now the development proposal is noted as 119 units and 6 stories. The building has a ground floor patio and balconies for each unit, having private outdoor space, meeting the bylaw requirements. There's also an indoor amenity area on the first floor of the building of approximately 1,683 square feet and a 3,500 square foot outdoor amenity area on the second floor of the building. Off-street parking meets the bylaw requirements, and the unit breakdown here is 61, I'll just give you the percents, about 51% 1-bedroom with about 20% 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom den, and 10% 3-bedroom proposed in the preliminary plans provided for first reading. It's noted the proposed zoning to RM2 is not supported by the current OCP designation, but is in line with the transit corridor multifamily designation and the LTCAP plan. The LTCAP plan is at first reading and subject to change, but as noted, applications are proceeding in advance of adoption, basically based on the direction given by council in the past in June of 2019. Now, if this application were to proceed past the LTCAP plan, we would have to give amended second reading to the bylaw to allow for the density in the RM2 zone on the site. We'd also have to amend the official community plan to allow for this. That's if this application proceeds faster than the LTCAP plan, there'd have to be an OCP amendment and zoning text amendment to the zone if it goes faster. Just note there's some proposed variances also to the east and west property lines in these preliminary plans. Now, this is the proposed site plan showing the U-shaped building here facing to the south, the open U with building frontage, the main building frontage on York Street, 220th Street, and the lane to the north. The access is from the other lane to the south. So it's occupying a whole block between 2 streets and 2 lanes. And the outdoor space on the second level is in that U-shape area on the second floor as noted. These are preliminary renderings as this application preceded our current first and second reading approach. It's a first reading only application showing the massing of the building from 220th Street looking down the lane to the south, and then the second floor outdoor amenity area. It's another massing diagram from the same perspective, but just at street level. And then the recommendation here is that the zoning amending bylaw be given first reading, and further the applicant submit a complete application, including detailed technical reports and a rezoning application, development permit application, development variance permit applications with all the details of the building for consideration of the council, Madam Chair and committee.
Thank you very much. So just to confirm, Counselor Dozie, you had a note up. Was that about your audio cutting in and out, or was that a question? Okay. Thank you. All right, can I have someone to move it forward? Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Tan. And questions, Counselor Youssef.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to staff for the report and presentation. Mr. McMullen, through the chair, if you're comfortable, can we do a quick rapid fire session? Is this property within the escarpment?
It's not within the key escarpment areas. It's within the drainage escarpment area that goes up to 124th Street or Avenue. With the Director of Engineering, want to say anything more about that?
Yeah, thank you. So through the chair, so it's within the drainage area, like Mr. McMullen suggested, which is south of 124th Avenue. However, it's outside of the 300-meter setback for the geotechnical requirements.
Thank you for that. And through the chair, so the escarpment review does not affect this application in any way, shape, or form that we're.
That's
Okay,
correct.
And thank you for that. And when would we expect to see the review coming back?
So staff are just working through some additional scope of work to review the work that's been completed to date. And so you can anticipate a request for proposals going out towards the end of this year for some additional field works to support those reports.
Thank you for that. And lastly, through you, Madam Chair, when would we expect to see the Lougheed Corridor Plan come back to us?
Madam Chair, I will defer to the Director of Planning on that. We'll be discussing this.
It's currently under review, and we envision that it would come before you again in March.
Thank you very much to all staff members who answered those questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Counselor Carreras. Okay. Counselor Schiller.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff. I just wanted to just ask a little bit more. I noticed the OCP designation is multifamily. Can you just tell me a little bit more about like what that term encompasses?
Yes, so Councillor Schiller and committee, the current designation is urban residential. As I noted, the proposed LTCAP designation is transit corridor multifamily. And that designation provides for a range of housing forms, multifamily housing forms, from townhouses to apartments up to 6 stories. So this would be in the range of the uses in the proposed transit corridor multifamily.
Okay, so it sort of speaks to an increased density and multiple families
Yes.
living in on a property. Okay, so this is a fairly significant sized building. So I just wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about what we require in terms of features that sort of mitigate the impact on the natural environment, right? We're obviously going to lose some green space here from what's there currently. So just wondering about like water management and air quality and things like that.
Right, so the application would be required to have the requisite outdoor amenity space, which will have greenery. It also has to meet the 3-tier drainage management regime that the city has with the Engineering and Environment Department. There aren't any other specific environmental elements that required in this building other than meeting the step code of the province and those other measures I mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, so all in favor of moving it forward to next Tuesday? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.4.
The next item on the agenda is item 5.4, application 2023-203, DP and DBP for 23532 Larch Avenue to extend the time by which substantial commencement of this product is to take place from December 15th, 2023 to December 15th, 2025.
Okay.
This site is designated medium high density residential, and the current zoning is RM1 low density townhouse residential, and is proposed to say the same as RM1 low density townhouse residential. And the site is 1.83 acres. And this is not a new development permit and development variance permit. It's simply a extension because the existing development permit and development variance permit are set to expire on the 15th of December 2023. And the applicant is proceeding to get ready for the building permit submission and does need to have an extension because you need to actually break ground within 2 years. That's December 15th, 2023, and they will not make that. So this is simply an extension of the DP and the development variance permit. And this is the site here located on Larch Avenue, just west of 236th Street. This is the site with the OCP designation and the site with the orthophoto showing an existing just almost probably, well, this is 2023, just about completed townhouse project to the east. And this would be of a similar scale under the same zoning, this townhouse project. And as just summarized before, council issued the development variance permit and development permit following the zoning adoption being given to the rezoning on December 14th, 2021. This approved rezoning was to permit 19 townhouse units and an agreement for a portion of the lands to be acquired for active park use and another area for sloping portion for conservation to be dedicated as park. The application is set to expire 2 years from that date, which is the 15th of December 2023. And therefore, there's a proposal to extend the date from that 15th of December 2023 to 15th of December 2025 for 2 more years. There's no changes in the form of the building or the landscaping, but notification has to be given because we're reconsidering issuance of the development variance permit to extend it. And there were the proposed variances, which are actually issued, but are being reissued again should this application to extend be granted. And that's to increase the retaining wall height from 1.2 to 2.4 meters and reduce the setbacks on Larch Avenue from 7.5 meters to 4.5 meters for the northwest and northeast building units, just shown on a diagram in your report, and reduce the rear setback from 7.5 meters to 3 meters for the southwest building and unit, and 4.5 meters for the southeast building and unit as shown on a diagram in your report. And so the recommendations are before you, send recommendations regarding authorization to sign and seal the development permit and development variance permit. Madam Chair and Committee.
Thank you very much. Motion to move it forward, please. Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Any questions? Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. I'm wondering, okay, so when I look at this, it says rezoning application 2013-87-RZ. That means this started in a decade ago?
This did start the application a decade ago and
Okay.
was approved in 2021, 8 years later. Yes.
Okay, can you maybe just share with us why there were significant delays? And then my next question would be is if we delay this another 2 years, do we actually know if we're going to get somewhere with this in 2 years?
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Carreras, I can't speak to the whole history of the delays. There's some applicants go dormant for a while and then become active. That may be the case. There may be other outstanding requirements, but I don't have the history on that. The applicant is very serious in proceeding with this. This is why they've asked to have the development permit and development variance permit extended, because they do lapse if they don't actually start construction on the 15th of December of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to staff for the presentation and clarifications on this particular application, realizing that this is a rather reissuance, but just quickly through the chair to staff, with doubling the height of the retaining wall, reducing the front setback by 3 meters and the rear setback by 4 meters. Would staff, obviously they're recommending that this proceed, but would staff be able to tell us whether or not this fits within the character of the neighborhood that is developing into townhouses? You mentioned the development that's immediately adjacent to it. Would these setbacks fit in, or will this particular will these variances lead to this development being out of character or out of place in this neighborhood?
With regard to the variances, the 7.5 meter setback for townhouses is quite a large setback that applies throughout the city, and 4.5 meter reduction to 5 to 4.5 meters is quite typical for the front yards of townhouse projects. So it's not out of line with the typical setback relaxations. The wall height is higher at the back to allow for our rear yards to be flatter given the steep slope. With regard to the building to the east, I would have to actually just look at the file and we could report back at council if you wish. I don't know what the setback is on that offhand, but 4.5 meters is typical.
Thank you for that clarification. That won't be necessary. If this is sort of the typical for townhouse developments, then I'm comfortable with that. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff, can you just clarify a little bit where the project is currently with planning? I think you mentioned are they applying for a building permit?
Yes, that's where they're at, applying for the building. I'm not sure. I'd have to check to see if the building permit application is in progress or not, but that will.
Okay,
could
yeah,
report
I'm
back.
just trying to get a sense of, if the extension is granted, when would construction actually
Yes,
be anticipated to begin?
I can check with the building department on exactly where that is.
Okay. If this extension wasn't granted, what would happen?
So if the extension wasn't granted and as per the Local Government Act, development permits and development variance permits expire within 2 years of issuance if construction is not commenced. So they're not set to start construction and then would just expire and the owners would have to apply for another full development permit from scratch.
Start the project from scratch. Okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Okay, any other questions? No? All in favor of moving this forward? Opposed? Carried. And Madam Clerk, we're on to 9.1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is item 9.1, delegation of development agreement authority bylaw number 7973-2023 to delegate authority for development agreements. And I will just speak to that briefly if I may.
Okay.
So development agreements such as covenants, rights of way, and the like have historically been being signed by the mayor and the corporate officer. There is no legal requirement for the mayor to sign these documents, so staff are recommending that council delegate this authority to the Director of Planning and the Director of Engineering, whichever the subject matter is pertaining to, so that the subject matter expert is signatory to the agreement. The corporate officer will remain the secondary signatory. And additionally, the mayor's time and staff resources dedicated to this process can be reallocated. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. So with that, can I have a motion to move it forward, please? Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Any questions? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, if I may, through you to staff, will this delegation, if supported, affect the timelines of processing applications? And if so, how much? Will there be more transparency or accountability that will be applied as a result of this change?
Through the chair to Councillor Youssef, there is the potential for a small expedition of some development applications. Currently, there's a meeting held once a week where the mayor will sign those. And when our department receives the agreements, we review them. And if we do find an error there or something that needs a correction, that application would typically have to wait another week to go to the next signing. So there's a small opportunity to increase that there. As for transparency, the process will not change essentially. The Legislative Services Department will still have in place a process where we are seeking those agreements if we haven't received them within 2 weeks of a council meeting approval. And I think the developers will keep us on our toes if they're not receiving their agreements in a timely manner.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair. That was my question.
Okay. Any further questions? Motion or take the vote now. All in favor of sending it forward to the next council meeting? Opposed? Carried. And Madam Clerk, 9.2.
Thank you. 9.2 is updates to the council code of conduct and proposed amendments to the Maple Ridge Council remuneration bylaw number 7330 and creation of a solemn oath of office. And I believe our Chief Administrative Officer is going to speak to this one.
To members of council, this is a culmination of several months of work that you have been working on in another forum. And so what's in front of you now is a more tight and succinct bylaw that reflects previous direction from council. It addresses the three items that we had talked about. One was the impact of remuneration, and while it's not significant in some respects, it is an optic that there's some accountability given the fact that we all need to play appropriately in a sandbox. The other one is that there's changes proposed to the oath of office, which is subtle, but gives incumbents coming into council the reflection that you need to not only maintain the oath of office, but you also need to conduct yourselves accordingly based on, and it references the particular bylaw that's in front of council. And then thirdly is the assignment of an integrity commissioner that will deal with complaints as they come forward. So this, I know this is a piece of policy work that council's been working on. This is the first time it's been in a public forum. If there's any questions, I can ask those on a technical level, and just reminding council that this is for discussion and debate at next week's council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to move it forward, please? Moved by Councillor Crare, second by Councillor Schiller. Any questions? Councillor Schiller and then Councillor Carreras.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff. Can you just clarify about the conflict officer or that position? I'm just sort of interested in who's carrying out that work, who they technically are employed by, that kind of thing.
So the integrity commissioner is an outside body that the city will procure should we need to be able to do that. And that work will be conducted by the CAO's office. But it is supposed to be at arm's length. So it's a neutral, independent third party voice. If there are issues that council is experiencing or challenges with the code of conduct, but it is meant to be an independent voice that is not an in-house staff person, but it'll be a legal department or a legal firm outside of the corporation that council can use. And the CAO will conduct the work accordingly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions within the document itself. So application number 10, it talks about social media. That just means that this is inclusive of our social media, personal and professional social media accounts. I just question the, like, I guess I'm trying to rectify the personal versus professional and where those limitations lie. Is it because we have no personal? We have no privacy.
Public figure.
I mean, my social media is clean, but
I believe what the intent is of that section of the bylaw is to ensure that regardless of what's being done, not only in council chambers, but what's being done in the community is reflective of the code of conduct that council holds themselves to, and the expectation of taxpayers and the behavior of such, regardless if it's on a personal account or professional account, that it is one voice and one respective perspective.
okay. Was there any discussion around, just because I'm just cognizant of what happened in other municipalities of late, any question around sort of pseudo or made up names under elected official?
Again, those are issues that would be investigated through an integrity commissioner if there were complaints that were brought forward to the CEO's office or the mayor's office with respect to that.
Okay, and then the next one I have is number 11, comply with all laws. And I asked this question before, and I'm still curious. Things like the Local Election Campaign Financing Act is governed by Elections BC and has its own set of sort of ability to remove you from office and penalize you and whatever. And I'm wondering if our personal one needs to be in there when it's already governed by another body, and would we then, based on a decision of another body, put on another level? I'm just.
No, I believe the intention of this is just to include any act that may impact this, but including but not limited to the following pieces of legislation. And as we know that those governing acts can change on a whim, we would just do a housekeeping update to this. But the intention is not to layer on top, but just be reflective and respective of the other authorities that provide other components of legislation.
The understanding is we're complying with them.
Correct.
And then I just have one more, sorry. Section number 25, it talks about medical, and I believe illness and medical is already covered underneath the charter or the local government act, I think it's under the charter, we're already protected outside the 60 days for illness or injury. I think it's the only thing that's protected. Yeah, not really.
I'd have to check on that. But with respect to the code of conduct, we wanted council to be able to, or the mayor's office to be able to reassign work if there's the ability or the inability of a member of council to perform their duties based on illness. But you're correct, there is a component in the community charter. We're referencing that section in the charter, as well as ensuring that it's reflective in the operating practices of council and the corporation.
Okay, and then my only question on that is around the language around proof of illness by a medical professional. I just want to make sure that the privacy of individual members is protected and that council doesn't have access to medical information of other colleagues.
No, that is inherent in the community charter as well as in the piece of the Local Government Act.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Tan, did I miss somebody? No. Okay, Councillor Tan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. My questions are around the function of the Integrity Commissioner. Will council have access directly to the Integrity Commissioner outside of the Mayor and CEO's offices?
Yes, that's the intention, is to remove the mayor's office and the CEO's office from the process and allow council, if there are concerns, to go directly to the Integrity Commissioner.
Thank you for that. My second question is, when communicating the integrity of commissioner, what information is then released to the mayor and the CEO and then to the rest of council about interactions? Will those are interactions kept? What sort of data is then given back?
So once we go through the process of securing the Integrity Commissioner, that information will come to council at that time, as far as what the processes look like. What we're looking for now is the bylaw will allow me, once it's approved by council, to go and secure the services of an Integrity Commissioner, and then we'll build the procedures and the processes of what the mechanics look like at the council table for you to be able to provide that data and that information. But the intention here is to provide a forum for council to vet concerns without involving the CEO's office or the mayor's office in concerns of relating to behavior of members of council.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And through the chair again, I think the reason why I'm asking these questions at these point of time is I just want to make sure that before we procure, we ask you to go out and procure the Integrity Commission, that we are all sort of aligned in terms of procedures, because I think that's quite important functionally about what we expect. And I think that I really look forward to those procedures about anonymity too, in terms of sort of the ability of individual councillors to reach out to the Integrity Commissioner. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Nope. All in favor of moving it forward to next Tuesday? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, I believe community forum, I do see we have adjournment first before community forum, which is not correct?
Yes, it's community.
We can't adjourn and then have community forum. Okay. So community forum.
So participants in the community forum are reminded that there should be no discussion of public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for community forum is 15 minutes. If you wish to inquire about additional opportunities to address council, please contact the corporate officer. For members of the public who would like to speak during community forum, clearly state your name and city of residence before beginning your comments. If you're participating electronically, please use the raise hand icon, and when you are called upon, please turn on your camera. If you are attending the meeting in person, please come forward to the podium when the chair invites speakers. Thank you.
Okay. So anyone in the audience wishing to ask, please come up to the microphone. Yeah.
Hi, Mayor and Council and all the respected members.
Okay.
We are here in
Just
October.
please provide your name first.
Mandeep Sandhu,
Thank you.
And the property address is 21794 126th Avenue, Maple Ridge.
Thank you.
And we are here in October regarding the underground services of BC Hydro for our new project there. And the city told us to be like, it's going to be in the October meeting, but October meeting forward to the November. And today we didn't see any about that. So that's what my concern is. We are on the stage of deciding what we're going to do with the underground or with the overhead, and whole area in my development area of my new project. All the area is above ground, every single wire. So I don't know why we have to do the underground. So that's our concern is.
Okay. And I see Mr. Smith is eager to answer the question.
No, thank you. I appreciate the question. Staff absolutely recognize the importance and the impact on our development community for a number of these frontage improvements. And we're in the process of reporting back to council with some potential next steps. And there's some additional research that's just being completed. We anticipate a report to come forward to council in a session likely November 21st. And so we'll have that conversation with council, and then it would be forwarded to council for, so it would go to a workshop or a committee, and then over to council for the first 3 readings and then adoption. So it was looking like about another month and a half process to work through. But we want to make sure we have a fulsome discussion with council at the time. Thank you.
Okay.
And one last question, please, here by Mandeep. We have the, I don't know it's related here or not, according to my knowledge, but I still want to raise my point. We have the environment officer on our site few times. So the neighborhood, one guy complained about the tree on his property on the boundary line. So, and the roots of the tree or the tree is never touched by our, in the construction time. And there's an old driveway is sitting over on the roots, which is not constructed or not touched. To the environment officer, we try to send her I think a couple of emails, a lot of time phone calls, and every single day in past 2 weeks, I come to the city hall in the morning to reach to the environment officer about come and meet us on the site and we can discuss about it. Only thing is they're forcing us to, we need to provide the arborist report, this and that, but they don't have time for taxpayer to meet on site and discuss the, any excuse, any issues within reaching by the emails, by the city, by the call. No one reached to us. Only answer is do this, do that. They have no time for for us at the site. And we're requesting by the development over there. And I give I left the notes every day there, no contact at all. Thank you.
So what I'm going to suggest is that you talk to that gentleman that's right there, Mr. LeBon, and follow up with him because that's something that staff need to work through, not council.
Yes, that's what we're trying. But why I raised here, the only answer is she's in meeting. She's not in the office. She's sick. This and that. And I told them there's any manager, there's no any manager. You need to contact her. Why I am raising here? Because I think with the builder community, it's needing better communication, to reach the better results. That's why I am raising. I think everyone hearing my point, and I hope there's improvement on this. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for raising your concern. And I believe one of the staff members will reach out to you. Thank you. Any other members of public that wish to address council? Not seeing anyone online.
No, there's no one online, Madam Chair.
Okay, so with that, I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.